Hello and welcome. India is a country with a severe infrastructure deficit, but it's also a rapidly growing one, though the growth may have slowed down a little bit in recent years or months for that matter. How do we fix this problem? Do we have a vision? Do we have a plan? If we do have both, then what's really missing? Well, joining me to answer that question is Arun Maira, member of the Planning Commission based out of New Delhi. Mr. Maira, thank you very much for joining us. So, you've been involved in drafting some of the critical parts of the Planning Commission's 12th plan, which is particularly to do with infrastructure and how do we fix the infrastructure deficit. So, there are two parts to my question, right? So, one is the plan and the vision and how do we get that right. Secondly, when we do start implementing projects, they seem to get stuck. Now, that's not a planning problem, but it's a problem nevertheless. How do we address these two things?
Actually, Govind, if you make a plan and things don't happen, I would say it's a planning problem. The way the plan was made didn't take into account what is required to implement the plan. In fact, as I joined the Planning Commission 4 years ago, what the Prime Minister asked me to do was say, I'm first person from the private sector after many years of being even a consultant to the to CEOs about how to get things done in their organizations. What do we do about planning in this country? He said, we make plans and they don't get done. So we looked at the process of planning in the country needs to be fixed. It had become too much of a top-down process by which you tell people what the goals are. I mean, this much GDP we have to get or this much investment we must make, and you allocate it to different things. But it doesn't happen after that. I mean, the results don't come. So it was recognized that the people who have to get things done must be pretty strongly engaged early on with why certain things need to be done, how they would be done, and then equipping them with capabilities to do the things. This is part of planning. It's not that I make a plan and a report and then I hope and whistle.
But would this include as much the role of the private sector? Or
absolutely. You see, in our country, now thank goodness, we are not dependent entirely on state resources, financial resources or management resources to get things done. The private sector has a large role, must have an even larger role. And you mentioned infrastructure. We are saying that $1 trillion is required, that last time it was 30% from the private sector, we now want to make it 60%. Yes, of course, the private sector must have a role, both for the reason of money, as also from the reason of management capabilities to get things done. So the infrastructure we have to build in the country, if I can say, is not merely the physical infrastructure. There's an institutional infrastructure which will enable that physical infrastructure to come about. And this institutional infrastructure includes the capabilities of, for example, the planning institutions of this country, the capabilities of collaboration between the government institutions and the private institutions. That is also an institutional capability. People learn how to work together. It becomes like habit of how you do things together. That will enable the physical infrastructure to come up much more quickly and with less money too.
Right. But how do you respond to the impatient lot, right? So we've got projects stuck in roads, in ports, steel plants, power plants, all over the country, and for various reasons. So how do we bring them back to life or revive them? Because finally, we've also said that we are looking at higher GDP growth targets, we're looking at a revival in the economy and so on.
Well, when we made this 12th plan, we asked ourselves this question, the one the Prime Minister had asked, why doesn't planning produce results? We asked ourselves, what would we change about the way we plan? And it came very quickly by asking the why does it not happen? So what is required therefore to address the root cause of why it does not happen? Was one, I mentioned to you, that the engagement of people. The second was that even if you engage them, thereafter for them to work together collaboratively to get some things done is a missing capability. We have so much conflict between agencies. So there's no coordination.
And you're saying these are government agencies?
Between the government,
yes,
agencies, of course, and between state and center we talk about it. And also now private and government agencies, and you start throwing in the NGO as agencies. And so then you come to even deeper problems. It's not merely a coordination problem, it becomes a contention and therefore need for collaboration. So we located that the three capabilities that the country needs to build pretty rapidly if it wants to grow infrastructure and grow GDP. The three capabilities are: one, to convert contention into collaboration; the second, to convert confusion into coordination; and the third, thereby to convert intentions into implementation. Can you get people to knock their heads together and see a common cause, to address each other's concerns, and then make a plan together to achieve something together? It can be done. There are tools and skills to do this. That's it. People do it in wartime when they can get a country together. Private sector, when it does a transformation exercise, does this. And we found the nation of Japan after the Second World War, a nation which was known for poor quality, things not happening on time, just low cost maybe, became within 10 or 15 years the hallmark of quality in the whole world. Now how did that happen? Because they addressed these root causes, that we've got to learn how to work together to a team, look at the whole system and the problem in the system and fix the system, which was the total quality management movement.
Right. So if I were to, look at the present again, so, a lot of people feel, industry feels, for instance, that the last 4 months we've seen the right signals from government as a whole in bringing growth back and all that. All of that you're saying, I mean, the coordination, the removal of confusion, the implementation, how does it get going so as to really achieve those
intentions? Yeah. These are again intentions, and people are happy that we are announcing intentions to get back on the growth track, to open up them to more FDI, for example. But let's take FDI. Most of our sectors have been open to FDI, even 100% FDI. But as you pointed out, the money's not been coming recently. Money did come. It got stuck. Things weren't happening on the ground. So we have to, right now, make a single point plan, as it were, to just implement things, for which to disseminate the ability to convert confusion into coordination, contention into collaboration. So we've developed as part of the 12th plan. It's in there, but it's not being paid that much attention to in the media and so on, because it doesn't seem so sexy. Big numbers are sexy. It is a concept called the India Backbone Implementation Network. And this is like the total quality management movement in Japan, that we've located the sort of skills and tools which, if used at the various bottlenecks, could relieve the situation at those bottlenecks and get things moving again. Okay? And these tools are not esoteric. They are tools that people have been applying in even our private sector, our government sector, and elsewhere in the world too. Why can't we make it a movement that people start systematically saying, okay, if 6 people have to work together to get a result, first, let's sit down, 6 of us, work out what's the intention, what would be the constraints, how do we work together to address these, and let's manage our process.
Is anyone begun doing it in any project that you're aware of?
It has happened already. So most of social change tools, you don't sort of make it like a laboratory and then put it out. You observe how things have happened and then you convert them so. So if you take the Delhi Metro, and people have said, how come in this country, a large project working under terrific constraints produces the result ahead of time? So yes, the tools are working. We can see them here and there. But what we are doing is distilling them and explicitly making them available. Otherwise, we can keep saying, oh, to Mr. Sridharan, that's why it happened. But if you ask Mr. Sridharan, he did some things in a certain systematic fashion. So that systematic fashion and the things that were done—
has now been documented by
documented,
you.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So that's very, so you call it the India Backbone Implementation Network?
Network, yes, yes.
IBIN.
IBIN, exactly, yes.
Right. So, Mr. Maira, we've run out of time. So, thank you very much. I do wish you all the best with IBIN, and I promise that we'll be tracking it very closely.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Govind.